The news today. We're here with Susanna and Shubham. Rivka is probably going to join us halfway through the show, and she's going to interrupt us. But that's okay. I'll try to mute her as soon as she joins. But guys, before we cover the news, subscribe to our newsletter. Newsletter link in the description because like YouTube channels and Facebook pages are like being removed. Being taken like flies. And we don't know if our YouTube channel or our Facebook page is going to remain. And we need to be able to reach out to you guys and send you our content. So please subscribe to our newsletter so we're in touch with you no matter what. Again, link in the description. Please do it. It's very important. Okay, just do it.
Seriously important.
It takes
people are being terminated without any strikes on their accounts.
Right.
It's the wokening. It's the great wokening. Everyone's being targeted left and right for talking about unsavory things.
Yeah,
so please sign up for the newsletter. It's crucial.
Yeah, we thought we were done with this nonsense, but the Wokistanis are back with vengeance. So, all right, Susanna, let's go with the news.
Okay, first news. China forces birth control on Muslims. In Xinjiang, China, the Chinese government is taking measures to slash birth rates among the Uyghur Muslim population. Individual women have spoken out before about forced birth control, but the practice is far more systemic than previously known, according to an Associated Press investigation based on government statistics, state documents, and interviews with 30 ex-detainees, family members, and a former detention camp instructor. According to interviews and data, the state regularly conducts pregnancy checks and forces intrauterine devices, or IUDs, and sterilization and even abortion on hundreds of thousands of minority women. Even while the use of IUDs and sterilizations has fallen across other parts of the nation, it is rising sharply in the Xinjiang province, which is where most of the Uyghur ethnic minority resides. Those who fail to comply are punished with heavy fines or worse, even sent to detainment, aka re-education camps. The birth control campaign has resulted in a climate of terror around having children.
Wait, so is this something that they're just targeting the Muslim community with, or is it like because some people are suggesting that they do this for everybody anyways, or is this something different?
So, China is famous for their one-child policy, right, that they had in place for many decades. And then during that time, there was an exception where you could have 2 or 3 kids if you were in the countryside or an ethnic minority. And then that changed. So the one-child policy, my understanding is that it's been lifted for everyone. But it's kind of reversed nowadays. So they're forcing ethnic minorities to get birth control of various kinds, including straight up abortions, and while promoting the birth rate among the ethnic Han, which are the more majority of China.
Okay. So it's basically demographic engineering.
Yes.
Again, some people I don't know why in the Facebook post a lot of people think that this is not targeting any group of people, that this is the same law for everyone, which is nonsense, right? Like it's not. They're specifically targeting certain minorities that they don't like.
Ethnic minorities, yes.
Yeah, and some people are thinking like, like for example, there's one guy, the person with the most reaction, Nathan is saying that same law for everyone. I actually think we should have that law here and everywhere. What the hell is wrong with people?
Oh my God.
A lot of people seem to be suggesting that on our Atheist Republic Facebook post, as if these people have no respect for freedom.
That's so crazy. Like, I understand wanting to have the global population not as large as it is, or having, the burden that's put on our planet not be so heavy, and controlling that over time. But you don't do that by force. You don't do that by coercion. You
Right.
don't do that by threat of separating you from your family, or paying fines that you have to pay several $1,000s for having another child within the span of 3 days. That's not right. That's not freedom. And if you do want to have less kids globally overall, we do that through education.
I mean, yeah, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have shown how effectively you could control population by sex education, by giving condoms, by a country's GDP per capita growing has a great influence of reducing the number of children they
Mm-hmm.
have, work opportunities, and none of this requires actually government removing people's liberties and too much
Mm-hmm.
government control over what people do. If you actually if you want to control population, it actually the most helpful ways is to give people more opportunities and educate them and give them more choices, not to take the choices away.
Yes.
So we have seen that that's the most effective method. I mean, if the government has control over how many children you have, that's a government that has way too much authority and probably so many other things in your life. Is that really the solution? You're replacing one problem with a bigger problem. Let me see what the live chat thinks. Is anybody like? It's so weird because this time that we posted this, it seems to be mostly support for China. Like usually it's a mix on this, but right now in the Facebook
That's
page there,
terrifying.
I mean,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So I want to say like a few years ago, like one of my teachers said this, and this actually stuck with me. Like, uh, child people have more children in like poor families, mostly because like they, especially like in rural parts, because they don't have like too much access to entertainment or anything, and they don't even have much education. So it's often the case that their only way of having fun is to have sex, and they don't have enough education to like uh, use any protective measures like condoms or anything. So it just results in more children. So that you can just lessen the population by educating people.
Yeah, and imagine if your government came in and forced you to get an abortion. Like, because that's their idea of what their country needs. There aren't even words for how horrific and the depth of the violation of human rights that entails.
Okay. Yeah.
Earlier today, this is associated. Majid Nawaz officially declared his jihad on the CCP over this stuff. And
Oh.
I'm on board. I'm on board for Majid Nawaz's jihad on this subject, because this is so wrong. I encourage, if you're interested in the stories we're talking about today, just a reminder, you can find all of the sources we're talking about in the description below.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone to read this full report by the Associated Press. It's long. They have a lot of statistics showing how birth rates have been engineered over the years. And there needs to be much more awareness about the depth of the problem that's going on there, because there's many layers to it. It's not just the re-education concentration camps, right? It's also demographic engineering. Oh, super chat from Chris.
He had to cancel his Patreon membership. If don't do a super chat if you're guys. Do not donate to us financially at all if you're struggling. Please do not. You don't. You can support us in many other ways, like sharing the video, liking, commenting. Do not support us financially if you're even struggling, even a tiny bit. Okay, but for the rest of you who are not struggling, link to our Patreon is in the description. Thank you.
But thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
If you
yes.
can't support financially, the best thing that you can do for us is to share, like our stuff, tell your friends about us, and also participate in some of our calls to action that we'll be talking about shortly. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
share a lot of the causes that we're trying to raise awareness about. That's what's most important to me personally. But
Right.
yeah, thank
Okay,
you though, Chris. We love you.
next news.
Okay. Next news. Ex-Muslim atheist and human rights activist faces dangerous deportation to Tunisia. In Denmark and Tunisia, Nacer Amari, an ex-Muslim and LGBT Tunisian human rights activist, reportedly fled his home country of Tunisia in 2012 after receiving death threats from Islamists and temporarily resided in Romania. In 2019, Amari traveled to Denmark, where he subsequently applied for asylum. His case was rejected on appeal on the 17th of June, 2020, so very recently, after the Danish Refugee Appeals Board argued that his atheism and human rights related activities will not cause him issues if he was deported to Tunisia. Having expressed overtly secularist views and criticized Islamist parties in Tunisia, Amari is at risk of persecution if he were to be returned to his home country. Tunisian atheists, secularists, and free thinkers face considerable obstacles to exercising their rights of freedom of religion or belief, expression, and opinion, including the threat of being attacked by Tunisian Islamists because of their worldviews.
Well, not just Tunisian Islamists, his own family. From I talked to him,
Yes.
and he said like there are his family members who are in the ISIS.
Yeah, so we've been in contact with Nasir, and this is one of the opportunities that we have for our audience to really, this is an urgent call to action, honestly. We really want to fight to make sure that Nasir isn't deported. This would be a big threat to his safety. And so if you look in the description of this video where we have all the news sources, the second news is ex-Muslim atheist human rights activist faces dangerous deportation, and right underneath that there will be a petition, and I am calling on every person who is watching this video. I need you to go sign that petition. Okay, if you can like this video, which I hope you also do, you can go sign this petition to make sure that, to help raise your voice and show that we are watching Nasir's case to make sure that he is not deported to where his life will be in danger. Yeah, we're hoping to bring him on our channel soon as possible, to help him share his story and to raise awareness about what he's facing, what atheists in Tunisia face, and why it's so important that Denmark does not dismiss his case as if there are not legitimate threats against his life. His family members are in ISIS, for God's sakes. Like, yeah.
So Aaron is saying, can you link in the comments? The link is in the description. It's right under the second news, which is this news that we're covering. But if it's, okay, anyways, the link to this is in the description. I just want to thank Susanna for this, because these are the things that I would have, given the number of things that we're doing, this would have been something that I wouldn't notice. And this is something that Atheist Republic is supposed to be on top on. And ever since Susanna joined our team, we are actually doing, we're noticing, Susanna is noticing and focusing on a lot of atheists that are in trouble around the world, and bringing more attention to their case, and actually doing, not just covering it, but also just coming up with a call to action that people could try to do something about it. And I know sometimes a lot of these petitions don't work, but they work often enough for it to be worth the shot.
Yes.
Even if they work 5% of the time, that 5% is, given that there is really no cost to you to sign a petition, that 5% is pretty good in my opinion, right? Like to there are a lot of, if once you bring enough attention to something, there are plenty of stories to show that it had some positive influence. So yeah, please do that.
Armin, in the comments, can you highlight it? In the YouTube comment section or chat, I posted the actual link, but if you go, I left a comment a little bit below of what you can actually Google. If you're not watching this on YouTube, please Google Grant LGBTQ ex-Muslim atheist Nasir Amari asylum in Denmark. Google that. You should find a change.org petition right away. And please sign that petition, because it's important that we rally around people. And I get sometimes frustrated that we as an atheist community kind of rightfully complain about the persecution we face, but don't always rally together to protect each other as a community, the same way that other more supposedly bonded communities, religious communities, will rally around each other. We need to rally around each other with that same energy and that same passion. So follow through, calling all apostates. If you're apostate, if you're an apostate, or if you are queer, I'm expecting you to sign that petition, because that's your brother right there who needs your help. So sorry, Armin, what were you going to say?
Okay, so two things. One about Denmark and the other one about Tunisia. Why is Denmark like doing this? Why is like what's wrong with them? Why are they not letting this person stay? Given that it's obvious that there's a threat, and also, what the hell is up with Tunisia? Tunisia is supposed to be isn't the most democratic from among all the Islamic countries and out there. Tunisia is supposed to be a role model for democracy, tolerance. So what the hell is up with that? That an ex-Muslim atheist cannot live in peace in Tunisia?
So obviously, this is all on a relative scale, right?
Right.
So relatively speaking, Tunisia's pretty good, right? But they still have blasphemy laws, and they still have major restrictions on what is supposedly acceptable or non-offensive enough to say, right? And then they also deal with certain Islamist factions within their country and their communities. So there is a threat based on the blasphemy laws, and then there's also just an inter-community threat, right?
There's also like homosexuality is criminalized in Tunisia, and Amari is bisexual. So he has also received threats from his family members and other people about being killed and everything.
Yeah, so there's also the threat of just not being straight, more from a more homophobic lens. And in terms of your question of Denmark, now I'm no expert on Denmark. I'm going to tell you that right now, and I'm going to be honest to our audience. But I did get this one comment on my Twitter that I don't know how true this is, but I thought this was interesting feedback, so I'll share it. So when I shared this petition on Twitter, someone replied, okay, here's the issue, and this is why you need to find a new place for this guy. He hates Islam and is speaking out against it all the time. You have to find a place where his anti-Islam views will be tolerated and give him an asylum. I would say US, but even here that's frowned upon. Obviously not as much. And they continued, my point is that Denmark isn't going to want to keep him when there are already many who are getting pushback from the Muslim population. And they provided an article that said that 76% of Muslims in Denmark want to ban criticism of Islam. So
Yeah,
I'm no
not.
expert on Denmark, but it seems like one thing we talk about often is kind of this contention within liberal, tolerant societies, where they want to be accepting of their immigrant population, but fall into certain traps of being accepting of the wrong beliefs under the well-intentioned belief that they are trying to be inclusive and non-racist, etc. My interpretation of this could be wrong, but this is kind of what I've understood about some of the feedback I've gotten back. And if you think I'm wrong, please tell me so. I have my Twitter at Skeptic Susanna below. I'm trying to learn a lot more about this, so let me know your thoughts.
Anyways, I have a lot of opinions in this, but we need to go to the next news.
Wait, can I hear your opinions though?
Well, okay, so I don't think that it really matters if you are, as long as you're safe. I don't care about if you're living in a country where people are not I do care about it, but it's not a big deal. Like, oh, people in Denmark are not going to be tolerant of your anti-Islam views.
Yeah.
Well, join the freaking club, right? That's the rest of us as well. But the only thing that should be a priority right now is whether you're safe.
Yes.
Whether you're like, is your life in danger? Like, I don't think anybody else should also be like, oh, people, like, I live in this country and it's Islamic, but nobody's gonna kill me, but I don't like that I'm not free to. Yeah, maybe like we need to focus on people who are actually at risk. Not to be. There are other, when it comes to asylum seeking, right? Other people who are not happy where they are, they could go through immigration and work visa, student visa, something like that. But the asylum, the refugee pathway should be left alone for people that are in immediate danger. Okay, so that's what
Certainly.
I'm. All right, so maybe
And
maybe it's
Nasser
yeah,
certainly fits that profile. And
right,
that feedback that I got was not from anyone associated with him. These are from some random Danish people on Twitter. Right? So this
right.
isn't his argument. That's just random feedback about how they think that their society wouldn't tolerate that criticism as much. That's not what's important. What's the matter is someone's physical safety, right?
By the way,
Hey,
Michael.
Michael Sherlock. Shouts out to Michael. I could not be doing what I'm doing right now for this case without him. Me
Thank
and
you,
Michael
Michael.
are working really hard on this. So
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're working with AAI on this, because we need to collaborate more. And I don't know if I have enough hours in the day to do that. So I mean, this is something that Susanna is very passionate about. So I'm really glad that you guys are talking. It's amazing. All right, so next news.
okay, next news. U.S. Supreme Court endorses taxpayer funds to go towards religious schools, and specifically the state of Montana of the great United States. The U.S. Supreme Court narrowed the separation of church and state in a major ruling in a decision that is paving the way for more public funding of faith-based institutions. The court backed a Montana program that gave tax incentives for people to donate to a scholarship fund that provided money to Christian schools for student tuition expenses. The court sided with three mothers of Christian school students who appealed after Montana's top court invalidated the tax credit for violating the state constitution's ban on public aid to churches and religious entities. Quote, a state needs not subsidize private education, Chief Justice Roberts wrote. But once a state decides to do so, it cannot disqualify some public schools solely because they are religious, end quote.
Okay, so I don't know what you guys think, but doesn't this seem like the worst offense on separation of church and states for a very, very long time in the United States? I mean, we were doing so well recently with the Supreme Court. We got like trans rights because of the Supreme Court. We got something else. I forgot what it was, but that was pretty good. Seemed like even the conservative judges were agreeing with some upholding people's.
I'm thinking probably the DACA Act allowing
Yes.
dreamers to stay. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a really
yeah.
big
So
success.
people were like, "Oh my God, the Supreme Court is getting stuff right," and then this kind of like, "Oh no, now we see why it's important to have the president that doesn't select conservative judges." Like, what the hell? Like, this seemed like an obvious one that they got wrong, and obviously I'm not an expert, so you guys could correct me why I'm being an idiot in the comment section, but correct me if I'm wrong. The reasoning was like this, okay? So they basically opened all the money from government to religious schools as much as you put. So they said, okay, so some school, if you have private schools who get rewarded by the government for allowing certain scholarships, right? Then if it's okay for private schools that are not religious, then it should also be okay for private schools who are religious. Is that the argument here? And they say that's not a violation of church and state separation because it's basically making it equal for everybody. That's the argument, right?
I was distracted by my uncle bringing me food. So can you say that one more time?
God
sorry.
damn it. All right. So what I'm saying is that the argument seems to be that if private schools that are not religious are allowed to get rewards from the government for having these sponsorships, right? Then private schools who are religious should be treated the same, and this is not a violation of church and state separation because we're treating everybody equally. Is that not? Is that accurate? Oh wow, Jen is saying, Armin, you are not an idiot. That's the best compliment I got for a while. But go on, Susanna. Is that not the argument?
That's my understanding.
All right, so that sounds moronic in so many different ways because then if you use that line of reasoning, then can't you just break down the wall between church and state on everything else? Like, you can be like, well, since we have courts that are not based on religion, and we allow non-religious court system, we should also allow a court system that is religious. That's not a violation of church and states. That's just treating everybody equally. And they were like, well, since we have a police department that is not based on religious laws, we should also have religious police, because we should treat everybody equally. And this is not a violation of church and state, because since like you could every scenario where we like removed the role of religion in government because of church separation, if you use the line of reasoning that the judges are using for why this is okay, then they could all go out the window. You could be like, well, it's just equal opportunity. We have non-religious options, so we should have religious options in the government as well. Like, what the hell is that? Not guys, is that not like idiotic? Like, am I reading this right? What do you guys think?
It doesn't make any logical sense to me, right? I mean, technically there are religious courts in America, right? They just don't have the backing of the state.
No,
there
okay,
are
no.
religious police in America, but they don't have the backing of the state, and that's the distinction you're making, right?
I'm talking about religion. I'm talking about government institutions, right? Forget that. Yeah, I'm not talking about private schools. I'm talking specifically about every scenario where you have the government the religion removed from government because of the Constitution, right? If you use this line of reasoning that these judges use for this, for why we should allow religious schools to be funded by the government, then we could use that for in every you could have military. You could have a government military. I'm not talking about private institutions that is not government based. I'm talking about like the United States could be like, oh, we have a secular military, and now we have a religious military as well that is run based on Christianity and Christian law. What? Oh, you're saying that this is a violation of church and states? No, it's not. We're just treating everybody equally. Like, what the hell is that? Like, that's not like, what is the? I mean, this seems like, I mean, if it's that obvious of a moronic, like, if my understanding of this is right, then the supreme judges of the highest court in United States are dumber than me when it comes to the freaking law. I mean, are you guys serious? What was the vote in this? Like, it was 5-4. 5-4. Jesus, right? This is why you Americans need to pick better presidents, okay? Because, like, look, it took just by one vote, right? Oh my god!
How dare you call us idiots on our special day? It's the 4th of July, bitch.
Oh. Come on, guys, pick better presidents. Your idiocy is affecting the rest of the planet, not just your own country.
No, you're right. I mean, this is a really big deal, and I'm hoping that we have organizations who have like the Freedom of Religious Foundation, who they tend to have cases lined up that can fall within certain criteria that can challenge rulings. So I know that if there is one organization in this country who is ready to handle this, it's the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So they're an amazing organization.
They can't do anything anymore on this. It went to the highest court.
No, but they can bring forth another case that would challenge.
It's really hard to do.
No, it is. But I'm not ready to say the world is ending.
Yeah, I know, but remember, every time you're fighting church and state separation, basically you have to use the precedent set by the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah.
Now this precedent has been set. Like, you are. It's close to impossible now to overturn this, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's close to. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's like this is gonna take United States back, decades, and this is basically, how we always say, like, well, having a cross in I don't know, in a court or in a police office, you might think it's not a big deal, but basically this is slightly opening the door to religious taking over government institution. This decision by not by a small police office in a small city, not by the Supreme Court state. This is the highest of. This is now a interpretation of the Constitution of the United States. This is not like religion creeping in government of the United States. This is like they just like flooding, opening the gate, and like this is like so bad. This is so bad. People don't understand how bad this is. This is the government now involved in actively funding religious education in the United States, and it's going to open the door for many other ways for the government to for religion to get involved in the government. I don't know, like this should be a major red flag. Like people that fight for secularism in the United States, this should be like terrified about this. Like I don't know. Oh my God, you guys, what are you guys doing? Like this is why we need to get politically active. People are like, oh, religion is dying anyway. People are becoming more and more atheists. Yeah, but they're not fucking active. This is why we need to become. People are like, oh, why you guys are becoming politically active? You guys are like religious people now. Because of shit like this. Because of you guys sitting on your ass and saying like, oh, I don't want to become become active because we're going to be just like religious people. Well, let the religious people just be politically active and say your rights just watch your rights being taken away from you. Congratulations, United States. Here's your gift on your 4th of July. Your rights being taken away from you in a major way. First of all, because you elect stupid presidents. And second of all, because you're not being active when it comes to, atheists and secularists are not working hard enough. Go support Freedom from Religion Foundation. These are the people that you need to be supporting in the United States if you care about any of this shit.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, as you've said before, and as we say continually, it's not enough just to have your activism to have a victory. Then you have to defend that victory, right? And this is a major instance where we failed to defend that victory. Practically speaking, it was pitting, the free exercise of religion against the separation of church and state. And when you're pitting those against each other, in this case, the free exercise of religion has now bled over into deteriorating our separation of church and state. And it's no good. It's absolutely no good.
No. All right. Sharpam, you have nothing to say? No? You're good? Just go like this. You don't need to unmute. Okay, good. All right. Next news.
Okay. Next news. Oh, okay. K-pop group Blackpink criticized for disrespectful use of Ganesha. Okay. The immensely successful K-pop group has come under fire recently for their recently released music video titled How You Like That. In the video, one idol by the name of Lisa is seen sitting on a throne with the statue of the Indian god Ganesha placed on the floor next to her, which is seen as immensely disrespectful to the deity. Hindus believe that the statues of gods should always be placed on high surfaces. Lisa was also wearing shoes near the idol, which is also seen as a sign of disrespect, as shoes are strictly not allowed near statues and temples. Many Hindus have now taken to social media to demand an apology from the entertainment company behind the group and a removal of that quick shot from the music video entirely.
Oh, please don't. Please
so
don't.
This is what was hilarious to me.
Okay.
Because K-pop stans are some of the craziest people on this planet. Battling against Hindutva. So it's like two of the most psychotically sensitive groups on this planet battling against each other to see whose fan base will win. So
I mean,
this is hilarious.
They have done some shit recently, K-pop stars, even for the BLM movement. And yeah, I love K-pop. I love Blackpink. I mean, I watched the video before the news came out, and I didn't notice the statue. I watched the video after the news came out, didn't notice the statue, and then I paused frame by frame to search where the fuck the statue is. So I don't know how these people even noticed it.
I literally don't. I watched it, and it's such a short flash of her sitting on the throne being like, blam, like, just being all sexy and pop idol-ish, and you have to look so closely to see the statue next to her. It was so wild, but I'm just ready for this battle. I'm ready for this online battle because
It
Blackpink stands will threaten your life. Okay, and so will Hindu
Well, no,
plus.
wait, wait, hold on,
No,
Mark,
BTS
no,
stands
no,
the
no,
war.
guys, let's be clear. Do not threaten anyone's life, Susanna. What are you
No,
trying to do? Do
I'm
not
not saying
threaten.
that anyone should.
I
I'm
know,
saying
but
that
They
people
will.
are gonna
They
think that
will.
that's an endorsement. Do not threaten
really.
anyone's life. Yes,
No,
people are
You,
stupid.
I'm not endorsing
I know
this.
you're
I'm
not. I'm
saying
just clarifying.
for people who
I
do
mean, you
not
don't
know.
even know like what BTS fans did to Liam Payne on Twitter.
For
Okay,
real. So I'm just explaining for people who do not know
right.
about K-pop fan culture. If you don't know about K-pop fan culture, they are, I'm going to
Well,
say it. They're
first of
psychotic.
all, you're living
They
under
will
a
go
rock.
after
Guys,
you.
don't
And
say.
I'm not saying that this is
Don't speak it.
okay. This is not okay, and I do not endorse that behavior in any form. I'm just explaining that this is how I have seen them react time and time again to even the most
Yeah.
mild
Okay.
criticisms of
Okay.
their idols.
Okay, so two questions. One for sure, Palm as a. Oh, actually, you're both K-pop fans, right?
I'm not really.
Okay.
I,
Okay, so both questions for Shubham then. First of all, is this a big deal in Hinduism to wear
yeah,
shoes next to? Yeah.
you really big deal. Even
Ooh.
the most moderate Hindus won't tolerate it.
Even the most
Yeah,
what?
moderate Hindus.
Moderate Hindus would not tolerate this. These people are, man. This is why every day I'm more convinced that that Hindus are more sensitive than Muslims.
But
Um,
here's the thing. Okay, first your second question, and then I
my
can.
second question is like, would the K-pop community, would they be like, oh yes, please remove this. This is insensitive, or would they be like, no, fuck you guys, do not change
The
anything?
Indians, there are some Indian blinks, like big blinks are the Blackpink fans. They call themselves blinks, and they are. Some of them are saying like, yeah, remove it. It's disrespectful. But I think the vast majority is saying like, no, that's not disrespectful.
Okay, so this is war. This is they're not gonna.
Yeah, this is
What are
war.
the chances that the kid that Blackpink is going to remove that part and apologize?
I don't think they will. I mean, I
Oh,
hope
thank you.
they don't.
Please do not give in to this mob. Okay,
I
please.
mean, okay.
Um,
So what I wanted to say was like, yeah, this is not the first time something like this is happening. Clash. I mean, uh, before this has happened,
all right, we lost. Wow.
Oh
It's
no.
okay. It's okay. We lost them exactly where we need them. The Shopom is in India, so sometimes the power goes out. Wow, it's so interesting that his lights went out before his internet, so we got one shot of him before before he lost. Let me remove him right now.
The ghost of Chopin.
All right, hold on. Okay, so he said was if the power goes out, he's gonna come back in a few. Maybe it was a Hindutva. No, never mind.
Don't even say that.
No. Okay. Okay. Well, I was gonna say I actually I tried enjoying. Oh, here it is. Before he oh, let me mute him. I actually tried to enjoy K-pop, but the only one I liked was Blackpink. And you
Yeah,
got
they're like I think one of the most successful groups in the world.
well, I mean, it's a whole bunch of Asian girls, so you can see why I would like that.
Yes, it's quite easy.
Wait, why is Shubham is back? Shubham.
yeah. Okay, I had a power cut, so I'm using my phone's internet.
Okay,
That's
say it
why there's
fast
no
before
light
you
here.
lose data completely. Say your comments fast.
Okay, no, I'm not losing it right now. But yeah, so what I was saying is this is not the first time this is happening.
Yeah.
Like this has happened before with anime in the 90s. The Japanese, like there was a Japanese guy who wanted to make an anime on Ramayana. Like everyone knows who Ram is by now, I think. So he was fascinated by the story, and he said like for the 40, I think it was the 40th anniversary for Japan India diplomatic relations, they decided to make an anime movie for that case. And what happened was like the Hindus they were like furious. They were saying, "No, no foreigners can make movies on Indian deities. You cannot make a cartoon animated movie to caricature Indian deities." And it was fuck. And
Wait,
at first, they thought they would produce the animated movie in India with Indian voice actors and everything. But because of the backlash from Hindus, they decided to produce the movie in Japan with American voice actors.
well, okay. So let me translate Shobham's shitty accent for people who didn't understand. I'm just kidding. Wait. So the wait,
We're getting canceled.
no, wait.
Why do you gotta
So
make my life so hard as CEO, man?
I'm just kidding. Well, Shobham, you're saying that Japan tried to do anime on Hindu deities,
They
and
have done it. They have
they
done it.
but the Indians said like, please do not do this because this is
Not
for.
please, no please, do
Oh,
not do this.
all right,
No
okay.
please. And even back in 2015, they
Yeah.
in Dragon Ball Super they had a character which resembled Ganesh as the god of destruction, and the Hindus were again mad about that. Like, how
Okay, but
dare-
this is very interesting because Japanese people don't. This must be foreign to a whole bunch of Japanese people because they love it when foreigners take up their costumes and
no,
like try.
actually, it is in their culture as well, Ganesh. That's another
Oh,
thing I wanted to talk about.
right. It's not like the Indians don't even own it. Like they
Even
Japanese have.
even Lisa,
Well, this
even
is a Korean
Lisa.
group, though.
No,
No,
no, but
Lisa is Thai.
Shobham is
Lisa
talking
is
about
Thai.
how sensitive the
Yeah.
Hindu people are.
Lisa is Thai, and Thai Ganesh is again in Thai culture,
Yeah.
No, but
and
the example.
that's
Oh my God! Wait.
okay.
So the example Chopin was giving was from Japan, just to clarify how sensitive Hindus are. That's what he was trying to do,
Mm.
right? See, I get you, Chopin. Susanna doesn't get you. Okay, but
Okay.
yeah, this is what I also another thing I like about Blackpink. I like people think about these like K-pop singers, a bunch of people like one-dimensional that don't know about shit about anything, and then I look into these girls, and they're like one of them speaks Japanese, English, Thai, and I don't know a whole bunch of other things. Like holy crap! And the next one speaks 5 other languages, and the other one speaks 4 languages. Like what the hell? How's this? And I get like how you guys like So I was very impressed. Anyways,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
there are
Lisa is the one with 5 languages.
5 languages. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
like the one. And yeah, there's another thing. Like, okay, so first in the scene which was shown, it was actually the scene actually wanted to convey like the Arabs, how when they looted India, they didn't consider these gods as gods or anything. So they didn't have the value of the gods. So they would just keep it anywhere. Like that was what was conveyed in the scene. Like the throne, it was like the Arabs with the genie lamp and everything. And that's one
Okay,
thing. And another thing. Okay, what? What?
Sherpan, before people get angry at me, you don't mind me making fun of your accent, right?
Nah, I don't
Eh,
really.
See, I just want to clarify because a lot of people think like, "Oh my God, don't stop being so abusive to Chopin every time." I'm like, there.
I mean, I make fun of your accent, but I don't make fun of your accent in front of you.
Oh yeah, no, I tell people I'm racist to Chopin on purpose so that no, I am because he gets a lot of transphobia, and I want him to get distracted by people being racist towards him sometimes, so that
I mean,
he can be
technically
like,
we are the same race. Technically, we are
no,
the same race.
how dare you
Aryans.
insult me like this?
Okay, so you are not an Aryan.
No, I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, I am
I'm
Aryan
kidding.
DNA.
I'm kidding. I'm
Oh
kidding.
my God. If you think it's bad while we're alive, you should see things behind the scenes.
All right, let's go. We're
No,
getting off track.
okay, no.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to say about this news, like there are countless atheists, mostly in the West, even here in India, like who think Buddhism, Jainism, these are like atheist religions. They don't have a god or anything. But that's not real. We never got to talk about it on the channel, but this is a good opportunity to talk. So how these deities like Ganesh and other Hindu deities spread into the Eastern countries like Japan, South Korea, Thailand is through Buddhism, through the spread of Buddhism, because Buddhism got these deities from Hinduism. They mixed in with the culture of those countries, and they had their own versions of these gods. And Buddhism, even in the text, Ganesha is worshipped.
All right, we lost Shubham again. Power
Okay.
cut. Are you back?
Yeah, again. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Okay. Okay.
Again.
We need to move. We need to move to the next story. I just want to really quickly read a comment by Sujata on this news item. He or she is saying, "Yes, that's India for you. We torture, abuse, and kill elephants who are actual living beings in the name of tourism and religious processions, but get offended by this." So Ganesh, the elephant god. So yeah. So apparently, okay, that's interesting. Okay, should we go to the next news?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The
Oh wait,
United
Shubham really seemed to like want to say something more. Shubham, you're good.
Oh no, I was just about to like complete what I was saying. So
Okay, yeah,
Buddhism is
sorry.
not
Oh,
an atheistic religion. That's what I want to say.
but, okay. Say that again because I was talking over you.
Buddhism is not an atheist religion. It has gods. You don't
It
know
has.
about it, but it has gods.
Okay, good. You offended a whole bunch of atheists by saying that right now, but it's okay. All right, next news.
Okay, in the United States, the US Catholic Church has spent over 200 million on child sex abuse cases in 2019. According to a yearly audit of the Catholic Church by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the number of allegations of child sexual abuse by clergy members skyrocketed to 4,434 between July of 2018 and June of 2019, in comparison to the 1,451 cases in 2018. The increased number is likely due to a new church run compensation program for victims, as well as a new culture of survivors coming forward with the numerous high profile abuse scandals that have occurred in the recent years. A number of states have legislated a 1-year window for victims who had previously missed filing criminal charges before the statute of limitations had expired to come forward with any new allegations. As a result, in 2019, the church says it has spent more than 280 million on child abuse settlements, as well as other costs related to the lawsuit. Of that over 200 million, only 41.5 million was covered by insurance, meaning that the rest likely came from donations and tithe money.
Wait, so the government making the church pay for these legal expenses?
Yes.
Okay,
If
good.
it isn't
So
if it isn't otherwise covered by their insurance, yes.
okay, so it's not the taxpayer paying for this then.
No, it's just all of their clergy and lay members.
So this is where your donations are going, Catholic people, when you are paying when you're putting
Yeah.
money in the donation. It's so interesting because every time we ask for donation for Atheist Republic, people are like, "Oh, you're just like a church now," or like, "Yeah, we take your money and we go and rape children and use that money to protect ourselves against against the law." We're so much like a church. Like, yeah, that's where our donation money goes. Like, no, but
No, let me say that he was being sarcastic. The answer is no. That's not what Atheist Republic does with our money.
no, but guys,
Please clarify.
yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody needs clarification on that, they're just idiots. But I mean, this is why if you call yourself Catholic, if you first of all, if you donated to the Catholic Church ever, you basically funded an organization, which I would say its number one priority right now is to provide a safe environment for people to rape children and to defend them against the law. And your donation, you donated to that system. You basically provided protection for child molesters, right? That's where your money is being spent, right? But even if you're just calling yourself Catholic at this point, you're basically giving legitimacy and authority to an organization that is its main priority, I think, right? Like beyond that is their main purpose, it seems, other than more than anything else. There's a comment here by Ivan saying, I stopped calling. Okay, if you add up the paid reparations, they are averaging $350 per minute since 1960s to now. I stopped calling it the Catholic Church years ago. I used their true name, the Pedophile Protection Society. Okay, guys, don't call them pedophile. Call them Child Molesters Protection Society. Okay, there's a difference between action and and just having a certain mental disease. Okay, but yeah, child molesters, being a child molester is way worse than just being a pedophile, and that's
True.
what these people are. And the ones that are not, they are providing protection for the ones that are. If this was any other non-religious organization, they would have been, government authorities, they would be like FBI and other, police agencies for each country would be stepping in, and all of these priests would be taken out in handcuffs, and we would have
That's
court
not
dates.
necessarily true.
What?
The
What?
Jehovah's Witnesses have been dealing with a systemic cover-up of child sexual abuse for a long time, and the
Guys,
Jehovah's
did I
Witnesses
not?
have not
Did I
that's not
not
happening
just
to them.
see Susanna? Can't listen. Susanna, you're not listening.
No, you said if it was any organization besides the Catholic Church, and that is an
I said
organization
any
besides the Catholic-
non-religious.
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
I said it's the protection of religion that gives you this immunity to, um, to the from the law and so many other things, right? So,
Mhm.
but you're right. It's not just, you're right. Actually, that's a good point. Jehovah's Witness is one example. In Iran, there's a lot of imams and Quran teachers that get away with raping children. It's just a perfect environment for people who want to take advantage of children. Religion provides the best environment for that, and not only provides you the environment, it also provides you with all the funds and legal immunity for you to be protected after you're caught. By the way, we got a super chat.
What?
Yay!
Aw, thank you, Silk Rabbit.
Silk Rabbit with the super chat saying happy 4th. Thank you, Silk Rabbit. $4.99 US. That's very sweet. Oh, let me see. Oh, it's saying.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that as well. We can't say that word. Just read it off of the screen. We cannot say that word,
Okay,
unfortunately.
so Oli Sprange, I don't even know how to say that name. Says let's not also forget forget the amount of time and money spent by the Catholic Church on moving and hiding. Starts with an N. The bad people in World War II that came from Germany. I'm talking about this organization is morally bankrupt. Yes.
Guys, this is why we guys need to help us share these videos, because just
sign
saying
up for
that
our newsletter.
Yeah, and sign up for our newsletter, because just saying that word right now could get you YouTube strikes and removed from YouTube. And that's why we need you guys to subscribe to our newsletter, because if you get removed from YouTube and Facebook, there is the appeal process is a freaking joke. You might as well just be praying to God at that point. But so please make sure that we have you subscribe to our newsletter, so we have access to you in case we get removed for stupid reasons. Anyways,
we've already dropped a lot of big words. We dropped the P word. So please like this video and please share it.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's go to the next news.
Okay, next news. 68,000 female genital mutilation victims in Germany. So in Germany, the amount of women and girls in Germany who have undergone female genital mutilation, aka FGM, has increased to 68,000, the family's minister announced on Thursday. The increase, up by 44% from the last estimated total in 2017, was attributed to the greater immigration from countries where FGM is more common. Minister Franziska Giffey called for new measures in local communities to prevent the number from rising further. The rise from 44,000 in 2017 was so large because of the increased immigration from countries like Eritrea, Somalia, Indonesia, Egypt, and Nigeria, Giffey said.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
how are you guys enjoying that cultural diversity in Germany right now?
Hello. Would you like to explain what you mean by that before people jump down your throat?
They could drop down as much as they want. I don't give a shit. But here's Here's the question: Is Germany is like not? Are they? Is there also a bias in addressing? Like, are they afraid? Like, are they actually coming down on this? Um, hard and trying to arrest these people, or is it no one rule for the average German citizen and another rule for these special people who we cannot like really go that hard against because it's just their culture?
I don't know. I don't know enough about German culture to really have that insider perspective. I wish we had Ridvan Idemir here, aka Apostate Prophet, because he grew up in Germany and has a lot of insight and really strong feelings about German culture and how it's changed over the past year because of issues like this. Everything I know is basically just like secondhand information about what other people's experiences say that the culture is like there. So I don't have a real in-depth understanding. Now, I think I could be wrong. You may be onto something in saying that there's a certain hesitance to call this out, label it for what it is, and assign responsibility appropriately. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, Daniel is saying, is this new cases of GM or a greater reporting rate? This is new cases.
New cases.
Yeah, new cases. No, yeah, the Germans are very good at recording things.
Oh, yes, they are, and they're on top of the 68,000 confirmed cases. They calculated up to 15,000 in Germany are under threat of undergoing the procedure. So this is a huge problem that Germany is dealing with right now.
Okay, yeah, we have Rivka now. Yay, that's great.
Wearing our merch. Hello, get that plug-in, girl.
That's
Everyone
awesome.
go buy merch from us. Check out the website.
Link it. Oh, what happened?
She left her.
She left. She just came to show her Atheist Republic shirt. Link to our Atheist Republic shirt in the description as well.
That's what I'm talking about. Get that plug-in.
Yeah, guys. By the way, just to clarify about cultural diversity, there's two different definitions. I separate culture in two different categories. One is traditions, and the other one is values. Okay, when it comes to traditions, okay, there we go. Rivka is back. No, she doesn't know how it happened. Okay, so when it comes to traditions, we're talking about food, clothes, dancing, art, calligraphy, architecture, dance, music, that sort of culture. When it comes to traditions, the more diversity of that, the better, right? Because what does that mean, diversity? And that means like you're exposed to more ways for you to choose to enjoy different cultures, right? There's nothing like more different kinds of food, different kind of clothing, different kinds of fashion. You cannot get too much of that. Okay, that's good. Okay, so when it comes to tradition, I support cultural diversity to the max. The more the merrier. When it comes to values, no, the superior culture should survive and the rest should just die out. Okay, values, there is a hierarchy of good ideas and bad ideas. The way women's role in society, there's bad opinions on that and there's good opinions on that. Opinions about homosexuality, opinions about transgender people, opinions about how to treat minorities, opinions about freedom of expression, right? All of this, there's a right answer and there is many wrong answers, and you defeat and you crush those wrong answers and you try not to let them survive. Okay, and when it comes to FGM, female genital mutilation, that is definitely beyond doubt in the shitty ideas that needs to be destroyed. Okay,
I mean, I think all genital mutilation, all circumcision needs to be destroyed. But right now, in the case of this story, we're focusing on female genital mutilation, and it's okay to turn your attention to one cause in specific. right? But a lot of people act like male genital mutilation is just fine because it's very culturally normative, especially in America, and it's not fine. That's a tradition that
did you
also
just
should no
all
longer be
genital?
excused.
Did
Yes,
you
I did just all genital. All genitalia matters. Okay.
You just all genital matters me when I talked about FGM. Okay,
Yeah.
so yes, all genitals matters. But I was just joking. I do agree with Susanna. Any form of genital mutilation should be outlawed. But at the same time, it's okay for you if you want to focus on your activism on just one of them. But okay, Zach is saying FGM is illegal in Germany for everyone. Yes, I know it's illegal in Germany for everyone. My question is, and I'm not suggesting this to be true or not, I'm genuinely asking, is if this law is being implemented equally on everybody. Just because the law exists for everybody, that doesn't mean that it's being enforced on everybody equally, right? So there's a difference between having a law and enforcing it. All right, so let's go. By the way, okay, so Rivka, how are you? Thank you for joining. And Shopam is back too. We have all four of us here. Yay!
Boys are back. All right.
So sorry, can you hear me? I forgot my mic or my headphones.
It's good. But we just got a copyright strike, Jen. Thanks to Susanna for singing that. Now we're gonna get the copyright strike. No, we will.
Anyways.
You watched it.
Hopefully it won't be too loud in the background. They're lighting off fireworks all over town. We're not having the main show, but they're legal to buy where I live, so people are just Michael Shirley. So people are just lighting them off all over in their backyard. So hopefully it won't be too loud.
We can't hear everything. It's fine.
Good.
Thank you for joining us, Rivka.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't come earlier.
It's okay. It's good. We're glad to have you halfway through. That's exactly. You said halfway through, and you exactly came halfway through. Anyways, we need to get to the next news.
Okay. Next news. In Canada, Iranian Canadian ex-Muslim fired after condemning honor killings. A man who will remain anonymous was let go from his position at a top Vancouver prep school after sharing a condemnation of Iranian honor killings on his personal Facebook page. In his post, which shared an article from Iran Human Rights Monitor, we've shared a lot of their work before, he also had harsh words for radical Islam, which sanctions the killing of young women by their male family members. In response to these killings, he wrote, quote, F Islam, F honor killing, and F you too if you believe any of these barbaric Stone Age ideologies, end quote. He was raised a Muslim in Iran and is now an atheist. The Facebook post was quickly reported to the school's headmaster. The headmaster told him, quote, your anti-Islamic social media post is in direct contradiction with the Mulgrave School, where he was employed, and Canadian values. It is racist and highly offensive. As a result, I'm immediately terminating any further relationship with you, end quote.
Okay, first of all, why are you saying F Islam and F honor killing? This is something we should just say it, like fuck Islam.
Are we trying to appease the YouTube gods or not?
When it comes to fuck Islam, I mean, since this guy lost his job, like fuck the YouTube gods as well. I know we don't blaspheme against the YouTube gods that often, but in this case, we should make an exception, give it to normalize what this guy was fired for.
Okay, I would like to give it full-throatedly then. Fuck Islam, fuck honor killings, and fuck you too, especially if you believe that these barbaric Stone Age ideologies, if you believe in them, or that they should be defended. Fuck you. How's that?
That was perfect, right? That's awesome. That's good.
That real good spice.
I agree. Fuck those people who defend it and do it.
But
also, this led me. Oh yeah, Shubham.
But let's get Shubham on record as well.
Regressive leftist. Fuck them. But don't literally fuck them. We don't want more babies from them. But fuck.
No, you can't fuck them if they give you consent. But go on.
I mean, I was just saying, yeah, whatever. But yeah, fuck them. Just fuck regressive leftists. I'm so fucking annoyed. Like everywhere, all around the world, fuck them all.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We're coming on. It's Independence Day, goddamn.
okay, so here I just want to thank Yasmin Mohammed for sending me this. I wouldn't have noticed this if she didn't send it to me. So really grateful to her for bringing more attention to this. And this is the news item that I recommended that was included here, and I wouldn't have seen this. This is insane that this is happening in Canada, right?
Yeah, well, this led me to the important question. Armin, are you secretly working at a prep school in Canada? Because this sounds like an ex-Muslim atheist from Iran who's blasting honor killings in Canada. Is this Armin?
Come on.
That's the first thing I thought.
So I have something to say about this, though. So he was fired because they said his anti-Islam comments. So first of all, and it was racist. Islam isn't a race, so it's not racist. And then the other thing is, these people who fired him are defending the faith instead of the victims of the faith. And that's reprehensible, in my opinion. And somehow they feel like doing that is the correct, the woke thing to do, whatever the righteous position, instead of looking at what this ideology is helping to create in terms of how people think this is acceptable, or they allow it in the society, or they fire people for it's really, really heinous. And so it kind of piggybacks on Chopin's point of the regressive left, because that kind of position is very much so that regressive, so the oppression stacking too. So being Muslim is, the religion is up here, but all the actual harm that's happening, the real oppression, isn't even coming up on their chart at all. The real sin is speaking badly about an ideology.
Right.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And I saw this case being talked about on Twitter before this full article was written up about it, and before the Post Millennial actually spoke to this man. And he was saying on Twitter, or someone who was speaking on his behalf, that he was fired within 10 minutes of sharing this, which is crazy. How bad? I mean, like, who snitched? What's wrong with you? Within 10 minutes of speaking out against women being murdered by their family members for not living under an oppressive chain of an ideology, and you're going to have someone fired from speaking out against something that happens in his own country that he lives in, it affects his own community? Are you insane?
Can I also just point out, for people who don't know, this guy, this Iranian Canadian ex-Muslim person that decided to post this. This was in response to Iran going through one of its worst months in honor killing. We had 3 women being killed that we know of in 1 month, and this caused a lot of people shedding on Islam within Iran itself, right? So the hatred towards Islam is growing among Iranians, and these honor killings are accelerating that process, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out. By the way, when it comes to the relationship between Islam and honor killing, I don't want to keep repeating myself because we already discussed this many times. I'm going to discuss it again many other times on our show, but I don't want to keep repeating the same, every time honor killing is brought up, right? But anyways, should we go to the next news?
Well, Shupam, do you have anything to add?
Oh, Shupam.
I mean, I was about to say, but is the culture killing women, innocent women? Is the culture we should be respectful of them killing women?
Yeah, and if you think that, I would like to tell you in exchange for you're a bigot.
Guys, don't speak at the same time because none of your audio gets out when you speak at the same time. But go on, sorry.
I mean, do you want to culturally appropriate them or anything like that shit? Like, be respectful. They just want to kill women.
It's just their
Women's
culture,
rights
and
are-
I'm
is
not a
Western-
bigot if I think that that's just cultural. What are you talking about?
Women's rights are a Western concept. Human rights are a
Yeah,
Western
that's
concept.
all.
I mean, it's really reprehensible. And I also think it goes back to this, which we've talked about before. A lot of people have said this before. This idea of Islamophobia being these de facto blasphemy laws, so that what they're trying to do is shame people because they know they can't prosecute them for blasphemy in the United States or in Canada, but they can call them a racist, right? So they're trying to shame people into not talking about Islam.
Right. Just to be
I mean,
clear to
isn't okay? Okay, isn't it kind of can't you call them racist like this? Because if they think inserting Islam is racist, so they are just technically
yes.
associating brown people with racist. So any white Muslim can come and say, "Hey, so you think white people can't be Muslims? You're being racist against me. I cannot try Islam or something."
Yeah, for people who have been living under a rock, this is called also bigotry of lower expectations. When you think that human rights, people from United States or Western European country, their culture is to have human rights and women rights and other forms of rights, but other countries it's just different standards for them, inferior standards for them. That is called big. You guys who believe that, you guys are the actual bigots, and that's called the bigotry of lower expectations, right? Looked it up.
Before we move on, I want to give this quick quote by Michael Sherlock. Fuck bitches, Islam. Don't criticize Islam, wokeists. That's just about right.
All right.
Okay.
Next news.
Okay, next news. Malaysia bans Muslims from using FaceApp. So this is possibly my favorite, most hilarious news this week. Malaysia has prohibited Muslims from altering a photo of one's face using the Face app called FaceApp. Face swapping app called FaceApp. It's very popular online. I'm sure you've seen it. Quote, the use of FaceApp is akin to encouraging the tendency of changing God's creation, even though it is not done through physical means. Hence, prohibition is needed to curb the tendency to change God's creation through the Saad al-Zaria principle, which means blocking the means. End quote. The Federal Territories Mufti Office said in a statement posted on its website. The Mufti's office also added that the app's gender swapping feature may lead to confusion as to one's true identity, and that using the app to change the face to make it younger or older could also mislead people from the truth, adding that people can't predict what they will look like in the future, and they are not meant to know what the future holds.
Okay, just a clarification from somebody who from Malaysia who commented on this post. He's saying, I'm a Malaysian and it's wrong to say that the country banned the app. It's just some guy trying to prove he's holier than thou or some shit like that. Nobody take these feelings seriously here. Don't paint Malaysia as a whole. We are way cooler. But then somebody responded to that guy from Malaysia apparently as well, saying still he has influence over many followers. The guy basically who was saying this has influenced many followers and he's supported by the government, correct? Oh no, the second guy is not a Malaysian. But then the Malaysian guy responds to that other guy saying, yes, that's true. He is a government appointed one too. And apparently this is what he's saying is widespread and serious. But so is the headline wrong? Is this not passed as law? This is just one religious authoritarian who has ties with the government that is saying this, that is being taken seriously by some people but not by other people, but is not the law at all? Or is the title exaggerating? Okay, good.
The title is somewhat exaggerating. So my understanding is that this is not a law so much as a religious leader who is endorsed by the government putting forth this prohibition.
Okay, so who is
But
this?
60% of the population of Malaysia is Muslims. So if that prohibition could be taken up by a majority of the country, possibly.
Okay, so if you don't like the title, that's not the title that we picked. Go talk to Citizens Journal for their shitty title, which is
By the way,
misrepresentation. Go.
I want to say like the face app, except for making changing your hairstyle, like either shortening or elongating your hair, it does nothing which a basic makeover can't do.
Oh, that's true.
Like it doesn't even change the structure of your face too much. It basically just gives you a foundation, shapes your eyebrows, and gives you long hair.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, but I love this idea that, yeah, like just seeing yourself as a joke, possibly it swapped as another gender is, this horrible thing to be completely avoided. When most people just do it out of curiosity. They're like, what would I look like as a woman? Let's go check it out. And then some people do want to genuinely see themselves that way, and that helps them move more towards imagining how they can transition in the future. And so in that way, I think it's pretty awesome.
I mean, actually, that's what I am using it for. Like,
yeah,
I don't have long hair yet. I mean, you have seen my pictures.
Yeah, you look cute as hell.
So
yeah,
and I have, but this is what I was wondering. I have cross-player friends from Malaysia. Like cross-player is like when the male, when men cosplay as female characters of women cosplay as male characters. So I have cosplayer friends from Malaysia, and I never heard like Malaysia speaking out anything against them because they also like cross dress and completely do makeovers and wear wigs and stuff. So I never saw anyone speaking out against them. And they say that I mean, they do get opposition from family members and relatives and stuff, but they never faced any legal consequences for that. So it's not very different from this.
But anyway, who are these idiots on our Facebook page who think that we pick the titles of, like, we post articles and then the title is like, they don't like the title and they think it's a misrepresentation, and they're like, oh, why are you saying this about this title is not right, you guys are misrepresenting my country and stuff like that. And like, you can see that this is not the article that we wrote, right? You could say like, oh, by the way, you could inform everybody and say like the title is misrepresented, but why are you blaming us for it? We didn't come up with the title. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you want us to do? You want us to, like, every article that we share with you guys, to contact the editors of that news, that publication, and be like, guys, fix this, and you guys.
And oftentimes, if it is misleading, we share it so that we can talk about why it's misleading and educate on how to spot how it's misleading.
Right.
So we have a grand plan. Okay.
Yes, the best plan.
Yes, we do.
That's right.
Okay. All right. By the way, I'm scared of using this swipe face swap app. I might be too attracted to myself if I do that.
You just gotta do it when you got a strong beard.
Warning for you, some people are. Some people got attracted to themselves way too much.
I would do myself so hard. But anyways, let's go to the.
It wouldn't take that much.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Okay, if you do, I need you to send me those pics. Okay, that'd be so funny.
We're moving on.
Okay, yeah. Moving on. Okay, next news. In California accuses Cisco of job discrimination based on Indian employees' castes. California regulators have filed a suit against Cisco Systems Inc. This is a major multinational technology conglomerate, accusing the company of allowing an Indian American employee to be harassed by two managers on the basis of his caste. U.S. employment law does not specifically bar caste-based discrimination, but California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing contends in the lawsuit that the Hindu faith's lingering caste system is based on protected classes such as religion. The lawsuit states that the victim had been a principal engineer at Cisco's San Jose headquarters since October 2015, and that he was born at the bottom of the caste hierarchy as a Dalit, often called untouchables. Like the other large Silicon Valley employers, Cisco's workforce includes thousands of Indian immigrants, most of whom were born as Brahmins or other high castes. The civil rights group Equality Labs, in a 2018 report cited in the lawsuit, found that 67% of Dalits surveyed felt unfairly treated in their United States workplaces.
Oh, so wow, this is caste system is even creeping in the United States and like giant corporations. Like how powerful this is.
Tulsi Gabbard wasn't an example for you. Like, she is a Hindu nationalist, from what I know of her. Tulsi Gabbard.
Which caste does she belong to?
I don't know. Honestly, like, her surname is Gabbard. I cannot. know.
Okay, but so by the way, for people
Yeah.
who don't know, but before Shubham says, Shubham is actually a Dalit himself. So these are his people. He's like he's not just the lower caste. He's an outcast. Dalits are the untouchable, the outcast. We should have like a Dalit pride parade or something in India. That would be amazing. But anyways,
I
go
mean,
on.
in the LGBTQ Pride Parade, we usually speak out for all minorities, including sex workers,
No,
Dalits,
they're
and
all
everyone.
separate. Dalit, just a Dalit
we
pride
should
parade
have that.
in India. Yes, in India. But go on.
Yes, Susanna wanted to ask something.
Oh, so I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective of this. So let me be clear. This is not my area of expertise. This is not my community that I come from, so I could be completely wrong. Okay, but I have lived in the Bay Area for a number of years now, and I've heard from other people in my community who have firsthand experience with this, that the Indian American community in our region is so large that caste discrimination can continue to perpetuate even within America. So there was someone who I knew who was talking about how she wouldn't marry outside of her caste. And I'm like, bro, you're in America. Like, what are you talking about? Like, who even cares? But the community is large enough that they can continue this behavior even in this country.
To be fair, this caste system is a shit of an idea anywhere on the planet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. Don't. I'm not saying that it's okay there, and it's not okay here. I was just surprised as someone who's lived here my whole life, and that's very outside of my culture. And this is, of course, coming from a place of ignorance, right? I'll admit that. I was surprised that there was a community large enough to even allow for intercaste discrimination, right? And again, this comes from me being ignorant and that not being my community. And I was shocked and horrified. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you want to perpetuate that here? But again, it was something I didn't understand.
By the way, this is an example everyone needs to take Hinduism as seriously as Islam, because it can destroy communities outside India and outside Hindu communities in general. I was quite surprised. Like, my cousin, elder brother, lives in the US, and he lives in an Indian community, like most Indians living in the US live in communities. And I was really shocked. Like, I was like, why would you live in a regressive community when you are going abroad? Like, that's why, I mean, I've decided, like, if I ever could get abroad, I'll like stay far away from these communities, because they can keep these regressive values up for generations, and I want to stay away from them. But okay, I mean, what?
No, I just want to be clear about something you said. Yeah. I mean, we shouldn't just worry about shitty ideas from Islam spreading around the planet. We should worry about like shitty ideas like from other religions like Hinduism as well. But let's just be clear, when it comes to how barbaric and dangerous ideas are, Hinduism doesn't even get close to Islam. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be worried about them, but let's just be fair about how far behind Islam Hinduism is when it comes to being a threat.
Okay, before saying one thing, I want like to reply to Michael Sherlock on the live chat. He was asking like he has read somewhere that modern Western class system was influenced by the Indian caste system, and I don't know if this is true. I mean, Indian civilization is one of the earliest four civilizations in the world, so it could be possible, but I'm not sure. I cannot say something for sure. But here's one thing: like this case, this is actually not. I mean, it is influenced by Hinduism, of course. Like you, no one can argue that, but it's still not Hinduism technically, because in the Dharma Shastras, which are like Hindu scriptures, one of the Hindu scriptures, there it says that if someone crosses the ocean, the sea, they will lose their caste. So they should technically not
Oh,
even have a caste.
so you're saying the caste system is definitely tied to Hinduism, obviously, right? But if you want to follow Hinduism accurately, once you're out of the India, the caste system shouldn't apply outside. Like, well, everybody is an outcast outside of
because
India.
because because that is like the Arya Bharta, land of the Aryans, and any like the land outside is just barbaric and
Hey,
uncivilized.
Iran is the land of the Aryan, so whatever. I'm just, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
I
this is
wanted to say something though about this
okay.
too. So, Susanna, you were saying it's not just that they can keep the caste system enforced because of the strength and the size of their community. I also think it's figuring out how these religious liberties work in the United
Certainly.
States. Because if you noticed in the article, it said that one of the things that this caste system can fall under with regard to Cisco's sort of defense, or the defense of these people who are treating this guy like this, and is that it's part of their religion. Their religion, their deeply held beliefs. Their religion says that they need to do this. You see what I mean? And so we can't stop them from discriminating against people. It's their religion. Because if we did that, then that would be wrong, because it's their culture to
Right.
discriminate against people.
That comes
You see what I
like
mean?
that's actually very scary.
You know what? This
That
is
is
what
actually very scary.
this is what you know how Americans could push back, like since around the world everybody thinks that, not everybody, a lot of people think Americans are white supremacists, right? The Americans should go be like, well, this is, now that you're all convinced that we're all white supremacists, this is our deeply held beliefs and this is our culture, so you motherfuckers better respect that. So I mean, you want to say like their culture is to discriminate against each other? Well, we could play the same freaking game. I don't know, but okay. So
Do we really want to play that game?
no, don't play that
I
game,
mean,
guys. That's a game
okay,
that everybody.
here's one
That's
thing
a
like
game. Hold on, let me finish. Let me clarify. That's a game that everybody will come out losing.
Yeah.
There's no winners of that game. But go on, Shupam.
no, I was saying like I know people from Indian communities abroad, like US, UK, and they have families who want them like they are living in a different country and completely different culture and everything. But they want their kids to marry Indians. They don't want them to go outside the culture. They want to have like the, and that's because this is thing like because outsiders don't have a caste, but Indians do, and this is how they indirectly maintain the caste system for generations and generations, and that's like really
Michael.
really scary.
Michael Sherlock is saying, "Is Rivka's deeply held beliefs a weekly thing? And can I get Can I get this on a T-shirt?"
Oh my gosh, that'd be
We
funny.
should. We should. Okay, so wait. I just want to say point one thing that just use this as an opportunity to people say, "Oh, Hinduism is not a religion; it's just a way of life." That's one of the most moronic comments that we constantly get and get this post like this, because yeah, religion is a way of life. So you saying Hinduism is a way of life doesn't make it not a religion. And also, yes, it is a way of life. It's a very shitty, stupid, moronic way of life. But yeah, I agree. It's a way of life, right? Do we want to move to the next one, or does anybody?
Yeah, so this is our Jewish news, and this is the only reason why we have Rivka. No, I'm kidding. Also, I would like to acknowledge the adorable dogs that Rivka has with her. So, last news. Jewish watchdog group calls out Black Lives Matter for anti-Israel tweets. On June 28th, Black Lives Matter UK tweeted, quote, as Israel moves forward with the annexation of the West Bank and mainstream British politics is gagged of the right to critique Zionism and Israel's settler colonial pursuits, we loudly and clearly stand beside our Palestinian comrades, and then in all caps, free Palestine, end quote. The Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, also known as CAA, responded to the tweet, writing, quote, the Black Lives Matter movement should embrace solidarity from Jews. There have been calls for violence against us from prominent BLM supporters with no official condemnation. Now, from the official UK BLM account, we hear the lie that fighting anti-Semitism has gagged legitimate debate. BLM UK has also called several times for parliamentarians and governments to implement, quote, sanctions, effective measures, and an end to Israel's impunity, end quote.
Okay, Rivka, you want to unmute yourself?
Well, I'm not sure. So I don't think that anybody's gagged. I don't think that that's true. I mean, there are some places that have laws on the books or attempting to have laws on the books for saying specific things about Israel. But I also know that denying or saying some definitions of anti-Semitism include calling Zionism. Hey, hold on, I got two dogs here, one big one and one little one. Sorry.
Okay.
Saying that Jews don't deserve self-determination as being anti-Semitic, because that's Zionism, self-determination of Jews. So I don't think that anyone's gagged. I'm not sure exactly, other than them saying, the thing that always gets me, I'm just going to talk about it from my own sense of it, is I don't like that if everybody calls it racism, because most of those people, a lot of those people are the same race. It's a lot of it's religious bigotry. And a lot of it would just be, I got to put this dog down. A lot of it wouldn't be a problem if it weren't for religion. It would just be like any other land-based conflict anywhere else in the world. Right? Where there's tons of situations very similar. And so it's hard for me to see it as some sort of special and crucial deciding factor of every single struggle in the entire world. You know what I mean? It's almost like buying into that lie about how it's so special. Like from even the people, the extreme Zionists who think that they can annex this because God says that they have this special right. So it's hard for me to even have this conversation sometimes with people, because anything that you say marks you one way or the other. Either you have to be completely against or for. Although I know lots of Israelis who are against the annexation.
Certainly.
Well, I mean, okay, so I like Israel as a country, and I'm against the I'm against the annexation. I'm against
I probably am too.
Right, and I'm also against the settlements, even though I like Israel as a country. I have a lot of criticism for Israel and a lot of their policies, a lot of their right-wing government, a lot of their influence of Judaism in their government.
And I do as well.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I do criticize Israel without hating on Israel a lot. But to me, it seems like, but you point to what I've noticed is that it's true that criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic, But a lot of people hide their anti-Semitic views behind criticizing Israel. And this obsession with Israel, like you pointed out, Rivka, why is this tiny country's foreign policies the number one go-to from far right people, far left people, a lot of people in between? Like when it comes to human rights violations, you don't get nearly as much attention when it comes to China's human rights violations of Muslims, right? 1 million Muslim concentration camps, right? And again, you don't see as much about India, which is doing demographic engineering that Israel is accused of, doing a lot, creating an ethno state, which Israel is doing as well. At least some elements in Israel is doing, which we condemn. But why is India not getting the same backlash as Israel? Again, this is, you might say, like, Armin, what you're doing right now is whataboutism. There's a difference between whataboutism and noticing hypocrisy and lack of consistency. Whataboutism is when you say this wrong thing is okay because somebody else is doing a wrong thing as well. That is whataboutism. But if you say this is wrong, but this is also wrong, they're both wrong, that's not whataboutism. That's a request for consistency. And if you notice patterns, if you notice that people are obsessed with one specific country, you know that there's something going on here. This is not about human rights. This is not about defending a group of people, right? And the fact that Jews have been the go-to people for blaming shit on ever since the destruction of the temple by the Romans, they have become the scapegoat for everything going wrong. And it seems to be the flag that people raise for them to find each other, for the radicals and for the tyrants and for the anarchists to find each other. Then you get suspicious. I mean, it's fine. You notice, like, yeah, it's fine to criticize Israel. But why do so many movements that have nothing to do with Israel all of a sudden go talking about Israel? You're like, this is one of those moments, isn't it? You guys have a different, like, it's not proof, but it's a red flag. You guys, like, what is happening here, right? You know that this probably has something. There's some anti-Semitic agenda behind it, right? Again, it's not proof, but it's a huge red flag.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, definitely criticize governments just like you would do with any other country. It's also, somewhat, it becomes weird too with the Israel thing, because oftentimes people will say, specifically anti-Semites, it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel, but they'll say Israel doesn't represent all Jews, but to them, Israel and Jews are the same thing. They're always equating all Jews with Israel and all Israel with all Jews. And so it's this way of sort of using these tropes about Jews and sort of putting this Israel veneer on it too. There's that. And then the point you were making about this very tiny country, people are accusing them of everything, all these UN sanctions against them, 27 or something like that, and I think it was 2017. But you can't get people to come up with a sanction against all these other horrible violations. China, Uyghur Muslims, Yemen, Syria, North Korea, Venezuela. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Not that excuses Israel's behavior that might be wrong or right. I just don't think that they're responsible for 85% of the things that are wrong in the world. And it's really easy to use that and to make every problem tied somehow to them in a way. And that anybody who disagrees with you, this big veneer is part of everything. It's all like, what do they call it? Intersectionality or something. And so it all is everything, everywhere, the same, connected. And I'm not sure that they really know what they're saying, when they say things like, getting rid of Israel's existence and things like that. That's really threatening to a lot of people. And then one last thing I wanted to say, accusing Israel of all the being colonists and all these terrible things. Yes or no, maybe we can have a debate about what that really means, but there's lots of other countries that do things. For example, Morocco in 1973 sent an army down into the Sahara and just built this huge wall and took that whole part. And now they control it. That was 1973.
Right.
So, and not all Israelis are Ashkenazi Jews. That's the racism thing. Most of them are 60% of them are not.
Right. So what they would say, what a lot of these people say, like, listen, here's proof that being anti-Israel doesn't mean we're anti-Jew, because look, there's a whole bunch of Jews that also agree with us, which is very interesting, because this is the same community of people who tell us that when people criticize Islam and be like, oh, you guys are being bigots, they're like, no, look at these ex-Muslims, they agree with us. Then they're like, they call us Uncle Toms, right? So, and then they go out doing the same things to the Jews who agree with them, right? And just like Rivka said, if somebody is criticizing Israel's like human rights violation, if they haven't ever mentioned, I mean, again, you don't have to touch on every single human rights violation for you to want to focus on something, right? It's fine if you want to focus on something, but if you are like focusing on Black lives in the United States, and then all of a sudden you jump on something because you say, well, we fight for the oppressed everywhere, right? That's your reason. That's your excuse for why you're talking about Israel. And then I look at, and you haven't said much or anything about China's oppression of Muslims. You haven't talked about anything about the Hindutva in India. You haven't said anything about the oppression of Saudi Arabia, United States, and Western European country and Iran against the Yemenis people, which is right now the greatest humanitarian violation of our lifetime that people don't seem to give a crap about. You don't talk about Libya falling apart, literally being turned into pieces. With this, we have United Nations on one side, you have Egypt and France for some goddamn reason on the opposite side of the United Nations. And this, you don't care about any of these things, and you're not saying about any of these things. Again, if you were only focusing on police violence in the United States, I would accept that, right? Like, well, that's focus. But then when you jump on something else, because you say like our fight is for the fight of the oppressed people, and you don't speak about any of these things, you don't even talk about the Somalian people in Somalia, because even though they're Black and their lives should matter, and all of a sudden just jump, the first thing you think about is Israel. You shouldn't be surprised. Like when I say, well, why are you guys talking about Israel? And then you guys come and say, well, criticizing Israel is not being anti-Semitic. What do you think? Why you think Israeli is being erased? But then you're missing the trend that we're noticing here. We're noticing something happening here everywhere on the planet, and we have seen the precedent for people like throughout history. The Jews are the number one people everybody wants to go and blame for shit, and we know that that's the case. And you're surprised that we're being worried that there's some anti-Semitic motivation. I mean, even if you're not an anti-Semite and this is genuinely you just wanting to criticize Israel, you shouldn't be surprised why this is a red flag to us.
Well, also, I feel like there's all these things that happen with that too. Like somehow, like, for example, Jews, because that's what this criticism of Israel is hidden behind for most people, because they think they're the same thing. And not always. Israel's a government, Jews are people. You can have some of those discussions. Yes, it's a Jewish country, but it doesn't represent everybody, and all Jews don't represent Israel. But what I was going to say is there's this idea that somehow for the left, Jews are too white, so they don't like them. And for the right, Jews aren't white enough, so they don't like them. And I feel like, particularly on the left, this criticism of Israel is predicated on this idea that Jews are all white, and therefore, because if they're white or successful or European, they go to the bottom of the oppression stack. And so therefore, anything they do is siding with all the bad white Western man stuff. And anything that happens to them doesn't really count as real because they're at the bottom of the stack. So there's that.
And completely ignoring the fact that these people went through a Holocaust.
Well,
they act like the Holocaust.
Not just that. I mean, all of that, but in the United States, still the number one hate crime is against Jews. Some of these, why are people, Jews or Israelis, the only group are not allowed to call out bigotry against themselves? People say, no, it's not. Like they're always telling everybody, black people, transgender people, gay people, women should be allowed to say, like, look, this is bigoted. I perceive this as that, whether you agree or not. But then they have to explain how it's not. I don't know. I find it frustrating. I find engaging in any of the discussion frustrating.
It's extremely frustrating. I don't blame you.
And I also find it that you can't have a conversation about the other issues. Israel's not perfect, but what about people who get thrown in jail in Gaza for 3 years for being an atheist? That side's not perfect. We're not dealing with white hats completely and black hats on either side. It's a nuanced, complex situation. And nobody's all good or bad as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to make it that way.
Yeah, I think you bring up an important point, or Armin brought up an important point. I can't remember who said it, but it was very quickly pointed out when this was tweeted out. People were like, why is this the only foreign policy statement that you guys have made?
Mm-hmm.
That's a red flag. Why is, if you're so intersectional, why is this particular state the only foreign policy?
No.
Guys, when you're not speaking, make sure your microphone is muted. But go on, Susan.
Yeah, so just what I was saying. Why is this singular foreign policy decision you guys have supposedly made? It makes a lot of people get defensive very quickly.
Right. I just want to quickly read Serafina's comment on this and respond to it as well. Serafina saying criticizing Israel makes one an anti-Semite is in the same way that, like, he's like criticizing us by saying criticize. Okay, so this is satire, just to be clear. Criticizing Israel's government makes one an anti-Semite in the same way that criticizing the Quran makes one a racist. So basically, his point is that it doesn't make somebody an anti-Semite. But here's how your comparison is fair. That what you're saying is true, Seraph. By the way, that's a pretty cool name. But your comparison would be more fair if you actually acknowledge that, yeah, there are a whole bunch of bigots who use correct anti-Islam narratives to hide their bigotry. Like, you think, like, we do say that criticizing Islam is not bigotry or racism. We do say that, but we also have to be honest. If I see somebody that is constantly especially somebody who's not an ex-Muslim, or somebody that hasn't been hurt by Islam in any way, to be obsessed with Islam and no other dogmatic belief system, or even if they want to focus on Islam, is fine, but to not even acknowledge the other human rights violations or other barbaric teachings by other religions, or not to defend Muslims when they are actually being oppressed, right? So you could if they're calling out Islam as barbaric, but when Muslims themselves are a target of barbarism, when they don't even acknowledge that that's a real problem, and they do not call out anti-Muslim bigotry, then for those people, their criticism of Islam and or their anti-Islam narratives, to me, for those people, that's a red flag, right? So I'm not being hypocritical about this. Even when it comes to criticizing Islam, I do acknowledge that sometimes that is used for bad, for with people with bad intention, people who are actually bigots, and we do as much as we can to make sure that our anti-Islam narratives is not used for those kind of agenda. I mean, you can never completely remove that, like completely cleanse your community from that kind of views. Obviously, we've seen, but we call it out as much as we can, and we make it very clear that we defend Muslims when their rights are being challenged, right? And this is not something that right now the BLM is doing, right? The BLM seems to be very focused on Israel when it comes to their only foreign policy. This is a red flag. I mean, I would be happy to see them call out other, maybe like see them call out Islamic theocracies for their human rights violation. Is the BLM going to come now that they said something about Israel? Are they going to call out Iran next for their women rights violations and for arresting people for just removing their hijab? Is that something the BLM is willing to call out as in their activism to support the oppressed people around the world, or is that too anti-Islam for their taste?
Yeah, I think that your point, that was a really good point that Susanna made and that you made too, Armin. And also for me, like, I think that you can support Israel's right to exist and want good things for Israel and want good things for Palestinians and want them to have a better life, and that without it all being all binary like that. And this conflict isn't the microcosm of every conflict that ever existed and the one that represents every single thing, and that but for a lot of these anti-Israel people, it is, because they have to take every single thing and somehow turn it into some reason that it's got to be Israel. And it's tiresome to me. Right. So I'm sorry to say, like, and not that I don't care about real people's lives who have been impacted, because I do. And I've been to the West Bank and I've been to Israel and I know both people. So, but it's just the same narrative over and over again. That doesn't really seem like like you said, Susanna, this is the only foreign policy statement they've made, is to condemn Israel and to say that they don't really have a right to exist, which I'm sorry, I'm not going to get behind at all.
No, fuck that.
Yeah.
No way.
When I was talking to Armin privately about this slightly different situation that we'll probably be covering next week. But because I've been, a little teaser, because I've been deeply involved with militant leftist groups in the past, my personal experience, and I know that this is not necessarily always the case, but when I hear Free Palestine, I hear death to Israel. When most often, and I will reiterate, this is not always true, but because I've heard this slogan so many times and under certain circumstances, when I hear Free Palestine, they're saying fuck the two-state solution, fuck any opportunity of peace. And these people who say Free Palestine, in my personal experience, never offer up any solutions or ideas about what is supposed to happen to the millions of Jews that are living there right now. And so I immediately get extremely suspicious. I will reiterate again, it's not always the case. But when I hear Free Palestine, all caps, I start to get real nervous, because in my experience, that means something very singular.
Okay, so can I actually tell you about something about your suspicions? My suspicions about your suspicions is that your suspicions are right, because this is why they don't give you their solution. because their solution is genocide. Okay? And honestly, if you are familiar with these people, you should know. Whenever you hear from the river to the sea, wherever you hear any of those narratives, any of those lines, these people, if they had their way, there would not be any Jews for them. Anyways, oh my God, we're gonna get so flagged by this. Like, guys, we have said so many things that makes this video not get suggested anywhere. Please share these videos because these topics are so toxic, and so
Seriously.
against everything YouTube's algorithm has. Like, this video is not gonna get anywhere. Please share this content. But yeah, again, this is not an exaggeration, guys. Come at me, but a lot of these people's solution for the whole Palestinian Israeli problem is for them to just wipe out.
And we'll be talking about that more in depth next week with some actual examples of people saying it very clearly in America.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I was going to bring it up. So since
that's on the docket for next week.
Yeah, right. And I mean, it's I think you're oftentimes very much right, Susanna, that it is that's what it seems like. It feels like to me from my end of it. And because also sometimes when you ask people, so what's your solution or what ideas do you have? They don't. The ideas are Israel goes away, Zionism, nobody has these. They don't have a right to self-determination. Jews don't deserve a country. It's not theirs. They don't need it. They're bad people. They're colonists. They're white people. They're slave owners. They're this. They're this. Done with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to read Daniel's comment on this. Daniel Jones on Facebook is saying, unfortunately, I have to agree. This is from the UK. I'm an ex-far left. And they used to say, drive Israel into the sea. What I see a lot is a lot of people saying, like, the Israelis better start learning how to swim. That's what I hear a lot.
Oh no. Yeah. That's terrible.
Well, yeah. I find that you can't have any conversation about anything without Israel coming into it somehow. A lot of times, if they see my last name, so either Israel always comes into it somehow, or anti-Semitism does, or that somehow if you're talking about something that is related to Judaism and religion and religious bigotry and ridiculous religious tenets, somehow it turns into Israel is as bad as the Nazis, see how bigoted they are. And I'm like, well, how do we get from this to the Nazis? Right. You know, if you have fundamentalist Jews who don't want Muslims cooking at their restaurant or they lose their kosher certificates, that's Nazi Germany? Well, is it Nazi Germany when Islam won't let Muslim women marry anybody but a Muslim man? Is that Nazi Germany too? No, these are just stupid interreligious ideas. But it always turns into this: Jews are bad, Israel's bad, you're a Jew, you're bad, you support Israel, you're a Nazi, you're bad.
Right. Yeah, next week I want to talk more about my personal experiences of people voicing open suspicion of Jewish people because of the presumed affiliation to Israel. But that's, yeah, I want to save that for next week when we get into this kind of topic.
I have a lot to say about that too, because that was my point, is that they say that it's not about criticizing Jews, is not anti-Semitism, but yet for them it is, because Israel and all Jews are the same thing, and Jews are all Israel. It's the same thing. You can't get away from it. And you have people who want to protest against some Israel foreign policy in some place, and they'll go to the local Jewish community center. Well, how come you're there? Oh, well, there's not an Israeli embassy in this town. But these people are just Jews who live in your state, in your country, in your town. Why are you protesting Israel
at their front door?
At their community center, Jewish community? You know, I don't know.
I mean, okay. By the way, in an environment where it's saying anything anti-Jewish will get you flagged and removed, it's only natural for people to use anti-Israeli narratives to be able to find each other. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
And to be able to signal that, like, that's what you would expect for people to go after Israel, if the
If
anti-Semites,
other means are taken from them,
and if
certainly.
other means are taken up from them. And also it also makes sense for them to keep pointing to Jewish friends or Jewish people who are not Zionists, if they ever called out the Jewish people who are anti-Zionist, that they accept as a way to, if they're ever called out for potentially being anti-Semite. Wayne Smith is saying, what are realistic solutions for the Israel-Palestine situation? I mean, that would say we have had a lot of conversation about this with Israelis and Palestinians on this channel and my Ideas on Bugs channel. So that's a big topic, but I'm not going to go into solutions right now, but I'm just going, because that's that's 10 2-hour
People have
video
been trying to
discussion.
figure that out for
But
decades.
no, the solution is actually not that complicated. But what I can say is that nobody serious, nobody with power right now is even interested in solving this. So it doesn't really matter what the solution is if everybody with some skin in the, no, not skin in the game, anybody with influence
They're all circumcised, no skin.
Yeah. Oh my god. But okay.
That was
let me finish this though. But anybody with, yes, that was a really good one. But anybody with influence is benefiting from this conflict. Okay? All the major influencers or anybody that could do anything is benefiting for this conflict continuing. The people who are suffering from this conflict on either side, and the people with the actual solutions do not the influence they require. So, I mean, at this point, like, why do we even talk about the right solution when nobody wants this to stop? Nobody that can stop this wants this to stop. Anyways, that's a sad note to end things on.
I have a better note to end things on.
Oh, wait, before you do that, I just want to acknowledge Soha saying, but on the other hand, Israel did. What? Guys.
It's being facetious.
What? She is? I'm not noticing.
I'm pretty sure that's what, like, remember you were saying anytime anybody pivots back to, I'm guessing that's facetious.
Okay, but joke. In case it's not, so I was saying, on the other hand, Israel did so many bad things to Palestinians. If in case it's not, I just want to point out that there's not a single country out there with a clean human rights record. Okay, there's not no. I mean, nobody sane would deny that Israel doesn't have human rights violations. And of course, those human rights violations should be pointed out, and investigated and fought against. But again, be careful, because a lot of people have different agendas when their agenda is not human rights when they're pointing out Israel's human rights violations, right?
And Palestinians have done bad things to Palestinians, and Israelis have done bad things to Israelis, and
right.
I mean,
and it goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what you're saying now is not accurate, but okay, anyways, I'm not going to keep going down that road. But Shubham, did you have anything to say?
Not related to this news, no.
Okay. What is the good thing that we're going to end on? Susanna, you said you're going to...
The positive thing that we're going to end on, because I have to orient myself positively, is that we have an amazing community, and that community has the opportunity to help save someone's safety in their life right now. So I would like to reiterate once again, if you joined part way, if we didn't hear in the beginning, please check the video description. Underneath the second news, you will find the petition to sign to help prevent the human rights activist Nacer Amari from being deported from Denmark, where his back to Tunisia, where his life is under threat. So the positive thing is taking action.
Okay, great. Thank you, Susanna. Again,
Okay.
thank you, Susanna, for being on top of cases like this. This is so valuable.
I mean, you need to scroll up in the live chat to 87.
807.
Yeah.
That's
Lisa
way up.
Nash. Yeah, please do. Shout out to Lisa Nash for being the sweetest person in the live chat. There was this Hindu guy trying to diss me, and she defended me.
Wait, I'm not finding it. Is it maybe it's a different time for me?
It's the last
Yeah.
text for 87.
Anyway,
Okay.
Hey, I'm gonna go because I have this giant dog that is trying to mess with another dog. That's what all that was going on. Sorry.
and
Yes,
I have to go because my cousins
Yeah.
have been driving me crazy this whole time.
So
Right.
you know what my dog's name is, by the way? I'll tell you real quick. It's a Mastiff. Big T stands for Big Tiny.
Not this one.
I love it.
Exactly.
Wait, I can't find it. Oh,
Bye.
here. There we go.
Yep.
All right. Bye, guys. Again, so Lisa is saying, leave Shubham alone. She's cute. Oh, that's sweet. Thank you, Lisa.
You should see her on Instagram. She's working it.
Yes. Wait, how come you all know who Lisa is and I don't?
I know.
I'm talking Shupham's working it on
Oh,
Instagram.
okay.
I'm,
All right. All right. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.